Balloon Beats.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unhinged Live. As usual, I'm your host, Patrick Hennessy. You guys know the deal. Today, we got a little special pregame action going on. We're joined by our good friend, Wardy. He has his own Mets channel, kind of similar to what we do over here. He's an absolute beast. How are we doing today, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, my man. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this series for a while now, even though that everything's felt doom and gloom for both our clubs lately. I'm happy to have this discussion, and let's get rolling. Subway Series time, baby.
You know what it is? It's essentially like this is a conversation now between like two depressed fans from two trash teams. I made this really like funny joke that I thought was funny the other day. Basically, this is going to be a battle between two like trash cans, and it's not the Houston Astros. Like it's essentially just the Yankees are limping into the series. The Mets, I'm not necessarily like keeping up with them as much as I am with the Yankees, but I'm pretty sure they're not doing too hot coming into here as well, right?
Yeah. No. Mets have lost the last two games to the Miami Marlins. That's all. That's literally all you need.
And we lost 2 out of 3 at home to the Orioles. So there you go. Listen, before we get into anything, appreciate everybody for stopping by in the chat. You guys know the deal. Let's take a 10-slash roll call. Let's see who we got in here. We got Lori Seamont of the Century, Martin, Taco Nacho, Trick Shot, Big Brain Borg. We got Eric Jesse Sanchez. We got Patrick Booty, solid name, I guess. KG Baseball, Jesus, aka King Chavez, PTR. Brian DeGennaro, the absolute beast. And also we got Jesus, aka King Chavez, with a $3 super sticker. I'm sure it's one of the Unhinged Hippos people. Appreciate you, Jesus. I don't know why it doesn't come up on this, but that's annoying. But Wardy, like I said, big series starting tonight. I guess we kind of start things off by looking at this pitching matchup. Jordan Montgomery going up against Tyler McGill. I'm going to be honest with you. Don't really know too much about McGill. All I do know is I've never seen the name Tyler spelled like that before.
It's Tyler, literally.
Is it not pronounced Tyler?
No, it's Tyler.
Tyler. There you go.
Yeah.
How is he?
He's actually pretty damn good. Look, I didn't even know the guy when the season started. He started the year in AA, I believe. He didn't even start AAA. They got moved up. Mets had endless injuries even after adding so much depth in the offseason because they're the Mets. And then McGill comes in, and he's actually been one of the most reliable starters for the Mets for a couple months now. Like, that's actually how reliable he's been. So he doesn't have anything groundbreaking. He's not going to hit you with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball or anything, but he's just really composed. You know, he's middle-aged 20s rookie, and just since he's come to the show, he hasn't looked bothered whatsoever. So yeah, you're going to get a guy that should be able to hopefully go at least, between 4 and 6 innings tonight, all depending on what the Yanks throw at him. And he's just very poised for being a rookie. You wouldn't expect him to be a rookie from how he performs on a every 5th day basis.
Listen, I was excited because I didn't necessarily know too much about this dude. Now you say that, I'm kind of like, all right, well, we got Monty on the mound. I'm not necessarily like, a lot of Yankee fans are in love with Jordan Montgomery. For some reason, I'm not. He's putting up really good numbers this season. But for some reason, every time I feel like we see Monty pitch, it's always a struggle for him, right? He gives the Yankees usually 5 to 6 innings. He's like David Robertson back in his heyday. He just always gets himself into trouble and then finds a way to get out of it. That's just who he is. I always feel like he's on the verge of implosion, but he never seems to implode that often. So with Garrett Cole out, Tyone out, Monty's basically the Yankees' number 1 for now. I'm hoping Cole doesn't have to go on the IL. All I'm hoping is that Monty performs a little bit better against the Mets because I'm pretty sure he faced them at Yankee Stadium, if I'm not mistaken, and they rocked him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. When I reference the Mets against Southpaws this year, they've been horrible, like all year long. Especially if you're a no name that like doesn't have much experience, you're literally the second coming to Cy Young out there every single time you face the Mets. But Monty's been actually one of those bigger names that the Mets actually did well against. So I don't know if we're gonna see the same thing tonight. You know, when you look at the Mets lineup, I'm pretty sure Dom Smith is in the starting lineup. When granted he's had his struggles, and the Mets their rolling lineup doesn't involve Dom, but Dom's a lefty, yet he's actually been one of the better hitters in all of baseball against lefties as a lefty. So that might benefit you guys with him not being in the starting lineup. So he might be in left though. Actually, maybe he is. I got to double check, but no less. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm really, really curious to see how the Mets are going to do against him, knowing that they actually faced him already once this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, especially because like both lineups don't seem like they're like too bad. I want to pull up the lineups here. We could start with the Yankees. I guess we kind of break it down a little bit. Let's take that off the screen real quick. But looking at the Yankees lineup for today, you got DJ leading it off. Brett Gardner. Listen, Wardy, like I don't know how familiar you are with how much I despise Brett Gardner. I despise Brett Gardner. Like I'm just sick of seeing him in the lineup, especially playing over guys like Stanton and Voit, two of which are not in the lineup tonight. But you got Judge batting third and right, Rizzo at first, Torres at short, Gallows in left, Sanchez is catching, Urshela is batting eighth at third, and then Montgomery is in that 9 hole. Coming from like a Mets fan's perspective, right? Does anything about this lineup scare you?
Yeah, multiple things. To be quite honest with you, to an extent, Rizzo, just because he has had good success at Citi Field. He hit a bomb earlier this year against us. When I look at others, Torres in years prior, I'd be, in shambles. Not so much this year, but we'll see. He'll probably have a big game now, right? Judge is always going to be dominating. Healthy Judge is always one of the best players in baseball. Outside of that, however, I will say this. I'm a little curious if Gio Urshela has a little bit more pep in his step, because he's literally Francisco Lindor's like best friend, not named Javi Bias. And I wonder if he's going to try to, up the ante a little bit just because of their connection, because players be like that sometimes. Other than that, Gallows, huge swing to miss. You obviously know that. Gardner, knowing the Mets, he's probably going to like score like on a pass ball.
He'll have a 3 home run game tonight.
DJ, again, I kind of want to know your stance on this line, because similar to the Mets, but not to the same extent. In the first half, especially though, everyone's been underperforming for the Yanks. Not so much now on and off, but DJ was a guy that, the Mets had the chance to pick up a couple years ago when he was a free agent. They went with Jed Lowry. Jed Lowry didn't play more than 3 games for the Mets in his entire tenure here. And, DJ's, up until this point has been one of, if not the best second baseman in all of baseball. So I want to know, what is your take been on the Yankees lineup right now, but specifically DJ and his struggling, especially when it comes to things like slugging and just the home run power hasn't been there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, I'm going to say this. I always like to hear, like, an opposing fan's perspective, because I say all the time, right? Like, every day in my pregame, for the most part, when I see, like, no Voit and no Stanton in the lineup on a consistent basis, I look at the chat. I'm like, do opposing teams, like, find this intimidating, like, whatsoever? Because Luke Voit, excellent season last year. He's also been good this year since coming off the IL, but the Yankees refused to play him for whatever reason. And Stanton, they refused to play him in the field, like, consecutive days in a row. So, therefore, we always see Brett Gardner. But, I mean, DJ LeMahieu, kind of speaking about him, 2019, 2020, he was our best hitter. I say this all the time, like in a big situation, there's no one else I would have preferred at the plate over DJ LeMahieu. And that's considering a lineup with like Gleyber Torres in his peak, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and I still would have preferred DJ LeMahieu as the guy in that situation. Now this season, we're seeing probably one of the worst DJ LeMahieu's that he's ever had in his career. A terrible season out of him. Now, once again, it's not necessarily a terrible season in general, but to DJ LeMahieu's standards and the standards that we hold him to as Yankees fans, yes, this is a horrible year from him. And unfortunately, the Yankees consistently keep putting him in that leadoff spot. It doesn't make sense to me. And then when fans kind of cry about it, they're like, you know what? We're going to throw Brett Gardner at leadoff now and see how you guys like it. Meanwhile, for me, like my ideal leadoff guy in that Yankees lineup would be Anthony Rizzo. I would love Rizzo in that leadoff spot. I think that he already said that he flourishes there. Great on base guy. I think that he would really set the pace at the top of the lineup. Also, another guy, if he's ever in the lineup, I would love to see him leading off. Luke Voit. I think Luke Voit's a great leadoff hitter. I'm not too sure what his numbers are at leadoff for the Yankees, But the Yankees definitely have a problem at that top of the lineup there because DJ LeMahieu was always that great leadoff hitter for the past 2 seasons. And now that the Yankees signed him to this big 6-year, $90 million deal, I believe, he's fallen off the face of the earth. So I hope next season he could pick it up somewhat.
Yeah, and I think what's important too with not just the Mets, but the Yankees and the whole MLB is you're seeing a lot of guys that are underperforming this year, and you have to wonder how much does what has happened over the past year go into that as well. Just with not being able to get in your normal routine for a season, having the shortened season, maybe that's something that isn't necessarily resonating too well with a guy like DJ, who's also a veteran in the game right now too, versus maybe some younger guys that are still able to flourish and bounce back. So there's a lot of factors that can go into that. I'm sure he's going to be perfectly fine next season and beyond. He's I think one of the most underrated players in baseball, and it's just unfortunate for his case that he's having such a down year in certain ways.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the words of Kodak Black, I hope so. But listen, dude, let's take a look at the Mets lineup for tonight. We went over the Yankees. Let's look at the Mets. Leading off for the Mets, Jonathan Villar. In that 2-hole, you got Lindor, then Conforto. Conforto's having a down year, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I could talk hours on Conforto.
But then you got Pete Alonso, home run derby winner in that cleanup spot. Then you have Javier Bias batting 5th, McNeil 6, Pilar 7, McCann 8, and then Tyler McGill batting in that 9-hole because for some stupid reason, pitchers still hitting the National League. But let me get your take. Are you liking this Mets lineup? The only thing I'm liking off rip is the black jerseys because I'm a big fan of those.
Am I liking this Mets lineup given that this is the lineup that's actually given them their most success as of late? So yes, I do. I don't love it. Brandon Nimmo, who's a huge driving force for this offense, is on the IL right now. It actually looks like that he'll be back soon, but not until after this Yankees series, I believe. But yeah, there's a couple guys that really stand out to me. VR, at least, for the past week and a half, 2 weeks, has been really, really, really effing good in the leadoff spot. I don't know what it is. He was a guy the Mets signed going into the season, come off the bench just to add depth. That's what playoff teams should have. Caliber guys that should not be starting every day, but could be. And given the injuries and guys underperforming, VR has. I really like him in leadoff. He just doesn't know how to run on the bags to save his life. Like, he can steal bags, but he leads the league in pickoffs with 7. It's ridiculous. I don't know what his issue is. Lindor, Lindor's actually, been beyond unlucky this year if you look at his advanced numbers. I like him in the 2-hole there. I really hope he has a good series because he's done well against the Yankees in his career. Conforto, I'm not going to bet the house on Conforto at all today because he hasn't done good lefty on lefty at all. I was actually a little surprised to see him in the lineup, but they're trying to get him. Conforto has been hitting really, really good over the past month for the most part, but not against lefties. So I'm not expecting too much from him today. Alonso, you should be fearful of. He's been tearing the cover off the ball lately. He's been one of, if not the Mets' most consistent hitter all year long. Javi Bias has been literally everything for the Mets, literally since he came off the IL for the past couple of weeks. He's been electric. He single-handedly scored the Mets their only 2 runs yesterday by stealing third with a swim dive, which no one else makes that dive into third, and then he stole home off of a pass ball, and then he hit a home run. Jeff McNeil is normally a contact guy. He's usually batting around 315, 320. He's been a shell of what he once was this year between injuries and just having too much of a golf swing. He's a big golfer, and you can literally tell, and he's a huge hothead as well. So he's usually a guy that should be leading off for you in your 2-hole, and he just has not been the same this year like years past. Kevin Pillar is home run or nothing. Pillar has good numbers against lefties, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a solid game today. James McCann has not had a good year for the Mets offensively at all. He's a big double play guy, and then McGill can actually get you a couple hits. So if there's one upside with the Mets pitching with all their injuries is that their rotation actually knows how to hit a baseball. It's something that they've always kind of been known for, but I want the DH more than anything. It's god awful that we didn't have it this year, and it really, really screwed the Mets over.
It's so weird. Like, every time we go to face a National League team in their own park, I'm sick to my stomach having to watch Jordan Montgomery get crucial at bats. I don't understand, out of all the rules that Major League Baseball didn't bring back from last season, the NLDH, they decided to bring back the runner on second base rule and extra innings, whatever. But talking about the Mets lineup here, I want to touch on Conforto for a little bit here, just because he's one of those guys that I'm just so boggled by, especially because going back to all the way 2015, right? He was supposed to be the next big thing for the Mets. Great World Series. Had 2019, I think he had a really good year as well, right?
Yeah.
Put up
His
solid
biggest
numbers.
year was actually last season in the short year. He was dominant the entire
and
short
now he's just falling off the face of the earth, especially in the year where he needed to kind of perform the most in a contract season. to be honest with you, like if Conforto would have put up good numbers this year, he probably could have been demanding like a 5-year, like $90 million deal kind of thing. Now he's probably going to be looking at like a 1-year, who knows how much.
If Conforto actually was consistent this year and kind of continue to build off of 2020, he could have been easily looking for 165 to 170 million contract. Like that's literally what the belief was from this past offseason, what he would be hoping for. The Mets didn't extend him. I think that to begin the year was a little bit of a sour taste because you lock Lindor literally, 30 minutes before the cutoff, of the season starting, and Conforto was still high and dry. So Scott Boras is his agent. A lot of people worried about that. I'm really not. But a couple things with Michael. One, going into this season, Sandy Alderson, the president for the Mets, did note that if the Mets landed George Springer, it would have directly prohibited their having a future with Conforto, which is not a smart thing to say in a presser. I don't know why in God's name you would make that public. So I'm sure Michael
Mets thing to say.
Like why? Like really? And Michael Conforto is my favorite player. So his team struggle this year sucked. He pulled his hamstring running down first months ago early in the season in Tampa in that horrendous Tropicana field. And since then, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been as consistent. He had a huge slump. And now really for the past month, he's been hitting the baseball and swinging the ball, hitting the ball really well. But he's just been unlucky. He's gotten a lot of line drive out, similar to Lindor when he's had his bad stretches here. And two, he went back to his struggles that he's had in previous years, which is why he wasn't an everyday player right after the World Series and up and down between minors and the Mets, because he was only one-dimensional. He could only hit righties. This year, he's a little bit more in that category again. Can't do well against lefties from what we've seen, but he's been hitting the ball really well. So actually, Conforto, don't let his average deceive you. He's been doing much better as of late, but again, lefty on lefty, I'm not, if he hits a home run today, then I'll be blessed by that because I'm not expecting it at all.
I mean, it's just so weird, right? Because I was talking with, I think it was Dan a couple weeks ago, and we were kind of looking at like the upcoming free agents for this offseason, and we were looking at Michael Conforto. I was like, yo, if Conforto came to the Yankees, which I'm sure you wouldn't be a big fan of, I think he would absolutely rake. Like, you put him in Yankee Stadium, I think that's like a perfect fit for him. Beautiful left-handed swing. And maybe he just needs to change the scenery. Like, I know Mets fans, for the most part, like want to hold on to him. But maybe going into the offseason.
Most people are writing him off this year, and I'm really? Like, holding the line myself. Like, literally, was it the scene from Game of Thrones where he pulls a sword out? It's like a whole army coming out. Like, that's literally me. Like, I don't want Conforto gone. I think what will happen is the Mets will give him a qualifying offer and he'll accept it, because in my mind, I don't see why he would want to go to free agency when, yes, it isn't a desirable market when it comes to outfielders. He might still be leaning the way. But given his down year, if he just bets on himself, that's what Marcus Stroman did this year. Stroh's having a career year. He's going to get the bag in free agency if he stays with the Mets or not. So hopefully they reach on a qualifying offer and then go from there, because I really think that between the Mets having a terrible approach hitting-wise with runners in scoring position this year, and two, him being hurt because he was out for a good amount of time, though, and the contract, I think that all combined is why he's had his inconsistencies this year. I really think this season is an anomaly for him, if you will.
You know who I could kind of compare it to on the Yankees? Like a Gleyber Torres, right? Like a homegrown guy who was loved by this fan base when they first came up because they were unstoppable. And now that they're kind of just showing just a downside of their game, fans have completely turned on them. And I'm one of them as well. Like, I've been saying so long for the Yankees to start Andrew Velazquez and Tyler Wade over Gleyber Torres. I think that as a fan base, it just becomes very frustrating to see guys that you held at such high regards and see them fall off the face of the earth and just provide zero value to this team. It's unfortunate. I guess Michael Conforto is probably in that same place as Gleyber Torres is right now, right?
Yeah. There's actually a lot of similarities, not position wise, but offensive production for sure. Like, I want to ask you about Gleyber because, like, what's the reason for his lack of success? Like, defensively, I know you're not getting too much there, but offensively, I'm like, this guy, when he first burst on the scene, like, I was scared. There were literally trade rumors, because every year there's always a trade rumor between the Mets and the Yankees. The Yankees always need rotation up, so they need Thor, DeGrom, right? And then I remember like a year or 2 years ago, people were like, should the Mets trade DeGrom for Torres?
I think that was 2019.
Fans were like, hell no. Like, there's no way we could do this. And now look at where we are. So what's your stance on Gleyber? What's happening with him this year?
Bro, it's so weird and it's so annoying because coming into the season, like, I was a firm defender of Gleyber Torres, right? Especially because going into 2020, I believe Brian Cashman came out and he's like, yeah, Gleyber Torres came came into summer camp out of shape. I'm like, all right, well, first of all, like that's not something you necessarily say about like your starting shortstop who's like the future of a team. And also like 2019, let's not forget, sure, maybe a product of the juice ball, but Gleyber Torres hit 38 home runs. He was batting like third for the Yankees in the ALCS. He was carrying us in the playoffs for the most part. And then to go into 2020, I kind of brush that to the side, the down year there. But then when you come into this season, 2021, as a starting shortstop, and you just don't perform like we were expecting you to, especially because like we saw Gleyber Torres flourish at shortstop in 2019. I think a lot of people tend to forget that he played a lot of shortstop when Didi Gregorius was out in the summer of 2019. So just to see him perform so poorly, and there's really no excuse behind it. And I know a lot of Yankee fans will be like, oh, he's playing too much Call of Duty in the offseason on Twitch. I don't think it's that. I don't think it has anything to do with work ethic. I think it's just a prime example of like the Yankees coaching staff and the organization as a whole kind of not understanding how to work with players after they come up, right? Because we've seen this happen with so many players in the Yankees organization. They come up and they peak. I say this all the time. It's a weird thing that only happens with the Yankees. These players peak right when they come up, and then the league figures them out, and then they don't know how to adjust afterwards. And I don't know if that's a result of just players or coaching staff, because I look at Gary Sanchez, and it's the same exact thing. He came up in 2016, 2017, was excellent. Gary Sanchez was the king of New York, right? And then pitchers figured out how to pitch to him. And then he just doesn't know how to adjust. His hitting approach is completely sloppy. So I think Gleyber Torres is kind of the same way. And the fact that we always looked at Gleyber Torres, especially going into 2020, we knew we weren't going to get like a Gold Glove shortstop out of him, right? But we knew if he would hit for average and maybe provide us with 20 to 25 home runs a season, we'd take it. But now I think looking at Gleyber, and we're not getting that offense or defense. And I'm looking at a guy like Andrew Velasquez, who barely cut the Orioles roster a couple years ago. And I think that he's a better option over Gleyber. Says a lot. And I don't know what the future of him is, especially because going into this offseason, you're not going to trade him with his value at its lowest. But the Yankees do have Anthony Volpe coming up, who's one of the top shortstop prospects in the league. So he could be up next season. The Gleyber Torres is in really weird limbo. Unlike Michael Conforto, though, he's not a free agent at the end of the season. But if he was, I would easily part ways with Gleyber Torres and not shed a tear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up, the organizational issue, because the Mets, they're the effing Mets. They always have an organizational issue. Like I'm confident and grateful that going in the offseason, I really believe that a lot of things are going to change for them for the better, because this was a development year for Steve Cohen, first year's owner, to evaluate the scene and everything. But getting on to what you said about Torres, do you feel that guys like Andujar and Frazier fall in that category as well? Because I know that Miguel has had plenty of injuries, but like when he burst on the scene, there was like connections with the Mets as well. I'm like, I love this guy. I'm like,
yeah, it's crazy.
I've always admired the Yankees, because I feel like every year they'll have a plethora of injuries, but it's just next man up. Like, or you just get guys that peak, like Gio Urshela as well. Like every single year, you guys have nobodies that turn into somebodies, and guys that you now trade away, whether it's Ford when he had a little bit of a hot stretch, or Tauchman before you trade him. Like all these every year. I want the Mets to have that kind of thing. The Dodgers have that way as well. But yeah, there is a stalemate in development, I feel like, after a year or two of actually bursting on the scene with the club.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like I don't know what goes on in the organization, but my theory is that in the minors, the Yankees have a very good player development staff, right? We look at guys, even Luke Voit, when he first came over, he was in the Yankees minor leagues for a couple of weeks, I believe, until he came up. But I mean, it's very rare to see a player come up to the Yankees besides like Aaron Judge, right? I think he's one of the only guys who came up and did nothing but improve or kind of keep the same level of performance that he gave the Yankees when he first came up. But yeah, I think it's a huge problem. You look at guys like Clint Frazier, you look at guys like Miguel Andujar, even Gio Urshela, who's completely regressed this season, not only offensively, but defensively as well. He went from being one of the top defensive third basemen in the league the past couple of years, and now, especially after coming back from injury, I don't trust him at third base whatsoever. So I don't know where this issue lies in the Yankees organization, but I say this all the time on stream. The thing that pisses me off most about the Yankees, and we'll probably see it on display a bunch this series as well, there's zero accountability. Now, whether if that's like good performance or bad performance, you'll have guys like Rougned Odor who suck all season, and he'll still be getting like consistent at-bats at third base. Meanwhile, we have a guy like Tyler Wade who's batting like 500 over his last probably like 2 months at this point. I don't even know. But he never plays. I think he's gotten like 2 starts in the last 2 weeks. So, and then also you look at guys like Greg Allen, who performed great in the absence of, I forgot who was hurt, probably when Judge had COVID, I believe, but he was awesome for 2 weeks. Then we hear, oh, don't worry, Allen's going to play a big role in this team. He gets sent down. Luis Gil, 15 scoreless innings in his first, 3 MLB appearances. They sent him down. Don't call him back up until until Tyone's hurt. It's just mind-boggling at this point that the Yankees refuse to develop players and refuse to hold anyone accountable. So kind of just wrapping up the whole question, I guess, here. Yeah, the Yankees have like a problem when it comes to player development. And I think it's because of like their lack of accountability on the roster and their lack of kind of just parting ways with guys when I feel like it's time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I hear you 100%. Yeah. It's always been mind blowing to me because, like I said, I see it every year with you guys and it's always been admiring, but then it's like, why this happened with Gleyber and things like that. So
you even look at Talkman, dude. He's fallen off the face of the earth as well.
Exactly. It's just one of those things. And normally the teams that are more analytically driven, especially, can get these peaks out of guys out of nowhere. Look at your rivals in the Rays, for instance, and even Boston to a certain extent. Yeah. But whether that can be sustainable or not has been a little bit of a different story for the Yankees.
Yeah, I want to ask you a fun little juicy question now. So we mentioned like the Mets little scandals going on. Tell me about the thumbs down stuff, Wardy. Like, what is the deal with that? I feel like it's kind of like brushed under the rug now after the Mets went on a little hot streak. But like, what are your thoughts? Because I want to hear like a Mets fan's perspective on like Javier Bias, Francisco Lindor, basically booing the fan base.
The only reason why we're having this conversation is because Javi made comments. All right, because they were doing this for like all of August, right? And no one gave a damn. No one,
because no one knew what it was about, right?
Correct. And look, this was a slight. Javi shouldn't have said what he said. What he said was wrong. Let's clear the air there. You can't just say that, especially in the New York market. And you can tell that him being inexperienced, only being here for a little bit, not having that understanding, not knowing what it's like to play in Wrigley Field for the majority of the season versus Citi Field. Jesus, they've been booing Lindor since he had his first at bat. God forbid he grounds out. Like, the Mets fans are so hard and they're passionate. Don't get me wrong. But they're also on such a short fuse to the point where it can definitely get overwhelming, and I don't agree with it. I'm someone that's never been in favor of booing and this and that. I've been playing games this year. I've seen a lot of dog shit games, but you're not going to see me go out of my way to boo a team. I don't think it benefits anything. I really don't. I think it only hurts the mentality of the club, especially when it happens all year long, even when you have success and you're booing like the one strikeout. Like, give me a break. That's my personal take. But Javi comes out there. He has his presser. He says, that basically it needs to stop when, Mets fans, especially a certain type of Mets fans, are not going to take that the right way. I didn't take it the right way either. It was a wrong thing for him to say. But the intent behind the thumbs down is just one of the many things the Mets have done this year. They've done different hand notions, just rally them to grit together. And they've been dealing with booing all year long. And I get it. You need to perform at the end of the day. 100% agree. Mets have not played good baseball basically all season long. They can't literally hit a ball with runners in scoring position to save their life throughout the entire year. But I've never been on the booing stance. So that was all there is. But at the end of the day, all that Mets fans care about is winning ball games. And Javi Bias has single-handedly been one of the Mets' best players since that day. Like, literally the next day, he made the win happen against Miami at home. He got on with 2 outs, and I think it was bases juice. He got an infield single to bring in a run, and then he got from first all the way home because there was a RBI opposite field single by Conforto. Then he goes around second, goes third. He realizes the left fielder Alfaro kicked the ball, and he dives in and makes an awesome dive at home to win it. So like, he helped single-handedly win that game. I haven't heard anyone talking down on him since. Like, is he going to strike out on a slider like 10 feet away? Yeah, but is he also going to hit a home run the next at bat? Yes. So like, I love him. I hope the Mets re-sign him, but I think anyone that's still holding stock in the thumbs down isn't focusing on the bigger picture here and what's actually important for the Mets.
Yeah, it's really weird because I say this about Javier Bias a lot, right? Like, I obviously don't like him, and he's just one of those players where if he's on your team, you're gonna love him, but if he's on the opposing team, you're gonna despise him just because that's who he is, right? You look at so many guys across the league. I view what's his face on the Indians, James Karinchak. I despise him just because he's not on my team, but if he was on my team, I'd probably love him. But yeah, Javier Bias, he definitely probably shouldn't have said what he said. But at the end of the day, like, he's going to say what he's going to say. You know what I mean? But I think the only thing that the Mets could do, and it seems like they have done that pretty well, is just perform well and just sweep it under the rug. Just like you said, like, they went out, the next day, and they won. I think they swept a doubleheader, if I'm not mistaken.
The Mets, after that game, literally went on. What was it? Did they win? They won 7 straight after that game, I think.
That's how you sweep a scandal under the rug. That's exactly what you got to do. Meanwhile, the Yankees, on the other hand, 13-game win streak, and now I think they're on a 6-game losing streak. It's either 6 or 7 games at this point.
It's 6, I think.
Series. I'm pretty sure it's 6. They're not looking too good. The Yankees, I was considering them. Listen, after at the deadline, we traded for Gallo, traded for Rizzo. I looked at the Yankees as almost a lock for the wild card. And I even had the division on my mind, right? We were only 4 games out, kind of like the Mets. I think the Mets are, 4.5, 5 games out of the division right now?
The Mets are 5 out right now.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, they were in similar range to where the Mets are now. And now the Yankees are in that second wildcard spot, only half a game up on the Blue Jays after being swept at Yankee Stadium. I'm not losing hope. That every time I come on stream for the pre-games and the post-games, there's so many Yankee fans in the chat, and they're like, Pat, like Yankee season's over. What are you doing? I'm boycotting games. Shut up. Please shut up. Because the season, I say this all the time, the season is not over until I still see a little E next to it, to my team's name. And I'm sure Mets fans could feel the same way, because I feel like you guys are in that little awkward space a lot late in the year. So I'm looking at the Yankees right now. I'm viewing it on the optimistic side, right? I'm looking at us half a game up on that second wildcard spot. We have 9 games left against the Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays. We basically control our own destiny. And this series against the Mets means everything for the Yankees this weekend, simply because I think it kind of makes or breaks our season. Like I said, half a game up on the Blue Jays. We have this 3-game series against the Mets, and the Blue Jays are in Baltimore playing the Orioles. So that's almost a guaranteed sweep, because the Orioles lose to everyone besides the Yankees. So it's going to be very interesting to see like where the Yankees go from here. But regardless, I'm still confident in them making the postseason. From an outside perspective, do you think the Yankees make the wild card? Yay or nay?
I probably, unfortunately, let me put it that way. And the reason why I say that is, like, my team that I actually chose for the AL, like to start being a fan of, to focus more on the AL a couple years ago, was the White Sox, because when Lucas Giolito got traded there and Yoan Moncada, I'm like, oh, they're building something nice. But outside this year and starting last year, I've been following Toronto too. You know, they have arguably the best offense in all the league. If they just had a competent bullpen, look at, you know, in the division you guys have, which you can argue is the hardest division in baseball this year, you know, they have everything. They've just lacked that consistency in their bullpen. So for your sake, I'm concerned, just because I was looking at the Blue Jays schedule today. They have 14 games left against below 500 teams, 9 against, you know, it's not, look, I'm coming from a Mets fan where the Phillies still have like 14 games against below 500 teams. The Braves have, I think, like 9 or 10. The Mets, I think, have like, what, 4? Like that, you know, if the Mets make the playoffs this year, you know, I'm going to lose my mind, because I don't see it happening at this point at all. But I'm just going to enjoy the ride. But the Yankees, you know, don't count them out. They're the team that has the experience at the end of the day. They'll claw themselves back. Cole's coming back Monday. Obviously, that's going to be huge for you guys. Taillon is on the IL, but, you know, maybe it's going to benefit him, because I know he hasn't been doing well lately. It's so weird how the Yankees year has been, because in a lot of minds, it feels a little bit similar to the Mets, but just polar opposite. You know, Yanks had a horrendous first half. Mets had a really strong first half. And when everyone got hurt somehow, some way, they were just still winning games. Second half's been polar opposite. Since the deadline, you guys were rolling. Now you've been on a cold streak. And, you know, the Mets were horrendous after the deadline. Then they got on a hot streak. Now they're getting a little cool again. So, you know, I think the depth you guys have when it comes to just actually guys with playoff experience is going to propel you in the end. And that bullpen, you know, like the Blue Jays, if they ride hot for the remainder of September, it's going to be awfully difficult. But the Red Sox, I'm not confident in Boston like I was earlier this year.
Especially with Sale out with COVID now.
I know, like it's just a shit show. Did you see Renfro's comments?
Yeah,
like that's not going to end well one way or another. Like, so I don't know what's going on in Boston. Yeah, that division's nuts though. I feel bad for your, not for the Yankees, but for you, because I like you, because that division easily, like 2 of those teams, like say multiple teams from the AL that don't make playoffs, because easily make the playoffs in the NL this year, like with all the different circumstances. Like,
no, I say it all the time. I look at the standings sometimes, and I just want to cry myself to sleep, because I'm like, yo, if the Yankees were in the NL East, for example, we'd be in first place by, I think, 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'd be above the Braves by like 3.5, 4 games. Even in the NL wildcard, I'm pretty sure we'd be in that second wildcard spot.
Oh, you would be.
We'd be like 3 games up on that second wildcard spot.
That's just how baseball works, dude.
It's how it always works. It's how it seems to always work. But I mean, like, with that being said, I'm still confident in the Yankees making the playoffs. It just seems like you said, like they've been a streaky team all year. Yes Network put up this really interesting graphic the other day showing like the Yankees a roller coaster of a season, and they've been the definition of, you know, we're gonna go 2-12, but then over our next 14, we're gonna go 12-2, just because that's who we are. So I'm not gonna be shocked if the Yankees. You're not going to want to hear this. I'm not going to be shocked if they take like 2 out of 3 from the Mets, and then
I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Game at home, and then they sweep the Orioles in Baltimore, and then somehow they find themselves like 3 up on that second wildcard spot. It's going to be very interesting though, just because like all these races are so close, and that's why, like you even mentioned the Mets, right? I'm not ruling the Mets out of the NL East, just because kind of like how you said, like the AL East is so stacked. The NL East is so bad that it's really anyone's game at this point.
It is. And it's so weird because like the Braves, the Phillies, everyone's had their plethora of injuries. The Mets have had more injuries than any other team in the league this year, though. Like they've lost the most wins above replacement than even the Dodgers by a good amount.
The DeGrom loss, I mean.
And Jake's throwing right now, but there's controversy and we'll see if he's back. I don't think he's going to pitch again this year, but they're trying to ramp him up. But the point is, though, is that like the Mets right now, they're in a spot where they could have gained so many games. They lead the league by a large margin in games with only 1-run differential. They've played now almost 60 games this year where they've either won or lost, and they are now 27-29 on the season in 1-run games. And they've lost their last 7 games by 1 run, and they've lost 12 of their last 13 games in 1-run differentials. Like it's insane. Like
it's crazy.
I don't know. Like if they just knew actually how to hit more than $150 in runners in scoring position every night, they would easily be leading this division. The pitching's been there all year. They're 8th according to Fangraphs in overall pitching this year, when the Yankees are 4th, which is so mind blowing to me. But you guys have definitely gone competent pitching, for the most part this year, better than expected. But it just, the Mets, they've between their injuries and guys, historically performing bad, having bad managerial decisions, everything that could have went wrong this year for the Mets has absolutely gone wrong.
No, yeah, it's so crazy, especially because you mentioned how bad the Mets have been in 1-run games. I think the Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball in 1-run games. So that's kind of just goes to show how like the sides kind of flip when it comes down to that. But I mean, when we're talking about like postseason hopes, right? The only way I see the Yankees not making the playoffs is if they continue this little like acting like it's beginning of April and they have a ton of games left this season mentality that they've had, especially Aaron Boone. Now, I don't know from an outside perspective what other fans think of Aaron Boone. I can't stand Aaron Boone.
I don't like him.
Manager. There's no sense of urgency ever, especially when you're the manager of the New York Yankees. These guys don't need to be coddled. We have 22 games left of the season, I believe, and your team is half a game out of the wild card spot. And he goes and tells the media, "I'm not concerned that we're going to lose it." Bro, what are we doing? And then also when we look at like this lineup construction, these guys are babied way too much. You're looking at Giancarlo Stanton, a guy who 2017 NL MVP, has had a great season so far with the Yankees this year, played a ton of outfield, stayed fully healthy just about all year, besides I think one little IL stint. But the fact that he's not in the lineup on an everyday basis, especially when you're going into Citi Field, a stadium where he historically rakes in.
I've seen him hit bombs with Miami there. I'm aware.
When the Yankees are on a 6-game losing streak, you're crying for this playoff spot, and Giancarlo Stanton is not in your lineup. And also, speaking of lineup construction, got the little sign up right here. Free Luke Voit. Bro, Luke Voit is never in the Yankees lineup. I started talking about this earlier. It's mind-blowing, and I think most of it does have to do with like the Yankees' loyalty to some guys, whether they feel like Rougned Odor always has to be in the lineup or Brett Gardner always has to be in the lineup, and not only in the lineup, but specifically in that 2-hole. It makes no sense to me, and I think if the Yankees do want to show any sort of sense of urgency, they will be playing Giancarlo Stanton and Luke Voit every single game the rest of the season, if they really want to put their death lineup out every single night. But clearly they don't. They care more about rest than gaining any sort of ground in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so weird to me that they would have that mentality when they're in literally the hardest division in baseball. Like that's what doesn't add up about it. If you're in the White Sox position when you don't have any competition in your division, okay, that makes perfect sense to be the way that you guys are going to be. But no, you don't have any room for error. That's how I feel as a Mets fan as it is, and we still get errors every day. And it's unbelievably frustrating. And Voit is someone I actually really, really like. You could throw him to Queens in the offseason if you guys want to make a deal. If you're gonna maybe.
Well, I mean, you guys got Pete at first. So
what's that?
You guys got Pete at first. So
yeah, but
not really
we're gonna need a DH. DH is coming back.
Oh, that's true. Wait, that's true. I didn't even think of that.
That people, you got to realize that like DH is going to be a game changer once it gets universal, because it's all part of the CBA agreement. Like that's why we didn't have it from this past year, because the players union, was it the players union or the league?
I think the players union didn't.
Yeah, because they have to, like, I just hope that there won't be a delay in the season because of this, because they need to get figured out, but there should be universal DH. There's going to be a change of playoff format again. But yeah, once that's back, like I always joke about saying, if as long as he gets free agency, which probably won't, Mets are going to take Freddie Freeman from the Braves. Like I just do stupid shit like that all the time. But no less, Voit should be playing. I agree with you. I don't know what the Yanks are doing. I think that Boone has overstayed his welcome. personally from an outsider's perspective. Kind of similar to how Mets fans feel with our manager Louis Rojas already. I don't see him coming back after this year.
I think he's guaranteed to be gone, but I think that's the difference, right? Because Mets fans look at Rojas and they're like, yo, this dude's got to be gone in the offseason. You guys are almost positive that he will be.
Well, because he doesn't have a contract after the season. It's done.
Well,
so
neither does Boone.
Extend him.
Neither does Boone. That's the thing. So it's but as Yankees fans, we're kind of looking at Boone, and for some odd reason, I'm saying that even if we miss the playoffs this year, which would be a historical collapse, because coming into this year, the Yankees were like one of the World Series favorites, probably underneath the Dodgers. So if we don't even make the playoffs this year, I'm not certain in my mind that Aaron Boone will not be back next season. Like, I think it's very possible that they'll still bring him back because of, like what you said, the Yankees just never really seem to use the right guys in any right positions. They kind of prefer loyalty over performance, if that makes sense.
And it's like, how much respect do you need? You know, if you're winning championships and this is part of your core group that you want championships win, then okay. But you know, that's not the case. You need to win ball games at the end of the day, not worry about people's feelings getting hurt. You know, like, just get the job done, put the right guys in every day. That's what you need to do, right? It's crunch time. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would be fuming if there's guys that absolutely should be starting, so they have better matchups and things like that. They don't go. You know, and when you think of managers as it is, like, you look at Cash, look at look at Boston. Like, there's so many great minds in that division as it is. Alex Cora is such an SOB. Like, he's so good. He really is. He might be part of the cheating scandal, but he's still a damn smart mind. Like,
every time I mention him, like, Yankees fans are like, bro, Pat, how could you like Alex Cora, Red Sox manager? I'm like, I like the Blue Jays as well. Like, I just respect good talent in the game of baseball. Like, that's all I do. Like, especially when I look at opposing teams. I kind of base opposing teams on their fan base as well. Like, that's kind of why I'm like not too keen on the Mets. And also, if I was a Mets fan, I wouldn't be too keen on the Yankees either, because we were talking about this before. Two of the most toxic fan bases in all of Major League Baseball, 100%. The Mets and Yankees. Bro, it's crazy like how easily people flip-flop on teams. And maybe like we have a little bit of a different mentality just because like we're doing streams every single day, making videos every single day. Like, we feel attached. So like if we gave up on the team, we would have nothing to do with ourselves. So I think as like maybe like a more casual fan, it's easier to do that. But it blows my mind sometimes, like how flip-flop fans could be.
Oh, dude, preaching to the choir here. I mean, look, I love my Mets fans and our fan base, but there's definitely a lot that are so hurt from the previous regime, especially with how horrendous the Wilpons were. And I don't blame them at all. I'm fortunate that, you know, I'm a younger fan. I haven't dealt with all the hell and back to certain. I felt I've dealt with a lot in just like a 5-6 year period, which is all you need to know, because I have fans that going, 30 plus years feeling this way. And unfortunately, everything's gone wrong again this year. So this is just filling their narratives, when in reality, there's just so many things that we could have not controlled here, but we will be able to control in the offseason. So again, I think, unfortunately, it's almost like a Frank the Tank situation where you want to prove other people right more than you even want the team to have success. And that's a very unfortunate thing. I don't condone that at all. I don't think you're a true fan if that's really how you're feeling.
Yeah, bro, a lot of people are like that, surprisingly. But listen, I say we kind of hit that point in the show where we make some predictions. Let's make some predictions about this series. I guess we kind of start things off by predicting tonight's game, and then I guess after that we kind of predict how the rest of the series is going to go. But listen, Wardy, I'm sorry, but for some reason I'm going into tonight's game with some blind optimism. Even though the Yankees are on a little 6-game losing streak, I think the Yankees win tonight. I think we kind of rock this dude Tylor McGill. I like the name. I'm not too much of a fan of him. I say this all the time. Like, I want opposing pitchers to cry. Like, I always say, like, oh, when we face the Blue Jays, like, I want him to cry. But meanwhile, like, Andrew Heaney's the only guy that's actually crying, and he's But I mean, so I'm not going to say that about Tylor here. But I'm going to say that the Yankees find a way to hit him. I feel like getting away from Yankee Stadium is probably the best thing that could happen to the Yankees right now. I think that they were pressing a little bit at home, especially going up against like a team like the Orioles and the Blue Jays. They had a little bit more stress. I think for some reason they're going to hit the Mets well tonight. I think the Yankees win tonight by a final score of, I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to say 4-3.
That's exactly what's probably going to happen. Like, to be quite honest with you, I think if there's a game that I could say I maybe feel a little bit more comfortable in the Mets losing, I'll say tonight the Mets have yet to win a game this year in their black jerseys, whether that's a really or not. I don't. It pisses me off because people are going to put a bad stigma on them when they respect me as hell. But regardless, I think the Mets may very well find themselves. I hope they don't. I don't predict during the games only. So you have me doing taboo shit right now because I feel like
Oh,
I'm
really?
it. Yes, but I'll do
damn.
it for you.
Jinxes aren't real. Jinxes aren't real.
Yeah. You know, that makes one of us. But I think that the Mets could very much lose tonight, mainly just because of lefty. I feel that, you know, you're going to have a couple guys stand out against Montgomery. But you know, I don't have an overwhelming sense of confidence. I think that every game in this series, be quite honest with you, will probably be a 1-run differential or at most 2. Like, you know, especially with tomorrow's game and Sunday, I don't see how any of them are blowouts given the fan base, you know, having both Yankees, Mets fans in there, all the emotion. I think every game is going to be tight. And if it's not, I'll genuinely be surprised.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, just like kind of what we said to start things off, it's kind of a battle of two teams that are significantly struggling right now, but both at the same time fighting for playoff spots. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see a blowout, just because I feel like whenever there's a Yankees-Mets series, there's always usually one blowout. I don't know why, but it always seems like that's going to be the case.
Oh, was there a blowout in one of the games earlier this year? Because I know the Mets won 2 or 3, but I don't know.
It was the one where you guys like destroyed Chapman.
Oh yeah,
ended up being a blowout. Yeah, that was hard, bro. I think it was 4th of July. It was heartbreaking, dude, because I had a 4th of July barbecue to go to. So here I am. It's like I'm like, oh, it's a 7-inning game, should be done in like 2 hours or so. Bro, here you guys come in the 7th inning, just raking on those runs. Pete Alonso, I believe, hit the home run off Chapman and kind of started things off. Then just chaos ensued. I think there was like 4 or 5 runs given up after that. It still scarred a little bit, but then the Yankees won the night half. So listen, you don't make series predictions either. Is that taboo as well?
Yeah, everything's taboo. And like I say, I just, you know, it's probably wrong, but it's more so of predicting something than having it blow up in your face because you're almost never going to be
accurate. I love it though. Right? No, I love it, bro. Dude, every single game I come on here for the pre-games, I'm like, yo, chat, I got Judge going yard, Rizzo going yard, I got Nestor going 5 2/3, and then I'm never right. But also at the same time, like, I got Rally Rod here. Chat loves a Rally Rod simply because, like, they're like, oh, Pat, you abuse him. Like, he gets happy sometimes, but most of the time he's not. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but he's, like, all taped up and stuff.
I'm surprised I wasn't hanging off him.
Yeah, he's been through hell and back, dude. But he gets the job done sometimes. But then also people are like, Pat, you're a super jinx. And I'm like, jinxes aren't real. It's a whole battle between us all the time. But listen, chat, I guess before we wrap things up, you guys could throw some questions, comments, concerns, anything you guys want to talk about. Hit us with some questions, anything you guys want. All I know is that I'm looking forward to this game. I know, like, especially because tomorrow's 9/11, that's going to be a huge game.
Can we take a moment to talk about that though? Because you know, 9/11, I love. Like, let me put it this way: I don't love the fact that it's 9/11, but I love the fact that this game will bring closure to a lot of people, and that's the whole point behind it, right? And being 20th anniversary, emotions are going to be sky high. You know, you have Bobby Valentine, the former Mets manager, is going to be throwing out first pitch of Joe Torre, and you're going to be having, you know, Mike Piazza, a bunch of Mets alumni there. Mets actually changed their jerseys for tomorrow too. Instead of saying Mets across the front, it's going to say New York. And they're going to be styled like their 2001 jerseys. So it's going to be really, really cool.
And they're wearing the FDNY NYPD hats.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I love all that stuff. And it's going to be a monstrous game. It's going to be getting, you know, national coverage and everything. And again, those are the games where, you know, regardless on who wins, I hope that there's like a dramatic, you know, kind of, you know, last rally going or, you know, home run to walk off. Like, I want, like, let me put it this way. I want a very similar game like to what we saw with the Yankees and the White Sox, but I know for your sake you don't want it to be a Yankees loss, right?
Field of Nightmares game,
yeah. But I mean, I want that similar kind of, you know, just so much energy, so much excitement, but there will be a lot more intensity. And again, I love that stuff. I feed off of it, so I think that is going to be an awesome experience. And again, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be a roller coaster. I'll be streaming that one on my channel tomorrow. Same thing with tonight and you know, Sunday that you'll be a part of.
Yeah, Sunday we got a little watch party going on your channel. Listen, I like watch parties. I can't do them as frequently as you do because, as chat knows, like in the 3rd inning, I'll be on here. Chat, my back hurts so bad. Like, dude, it takes a toll on my body.
Oh, no joke, you need a pillow, bro.
I do. Wait, that's really. I'm gonna get a pillow. Just for you. I'm gonna get a pillow.
Yeah, I've had subscribers send me pillows. Like they know. Awesome. They know what I need.
Chat, someone send me a pillow, dude. Like, what are we doing? But listen. Yeah, speaking of this Yankees Mets series, I feel like it's going to have like a playoff atmosphere to it. And I think the Subway Series is always such a fun time. But I think now that you incorporate like the whole 9/11 memorial to it, 20th anniversary, it's going to be huge. It's going to be, I think, pretty similar to like the Field of Nightmares game that the Yankees endured a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago at this point, actually.
Yeah,
but yeah, I guess we can hit on a couple of these questions here. Sure. Unhinged Chiefs Antonio says, Pat will forever have the title of Super Jinx. Thanks, dude. Pat, where were you when 9/11 happened? I mean, to be honest with you, I was like 1.5, so I literally don't remember anything. I'm pretty sure we're similar age, so I'm sure you kind of have the same case.
I was just over 1 when that happened.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's see. Yankee says, "Is being a Mets fan good for you? What's it like, Wardy?"
I mean, let me put it this way: it's going to be good for me. I'm happy that I've been a Mets fan for only since the halfway point of the 2015 season. I was never big into baseball. I sucked at it when I was a kid playing. I was huge in football, huge in hockey. But then my cousin, halfway through the 2015 season, said, Tyler, you got to make sure that you're watching these games. I'm like, why? He's like, if the Mets win the series against the Nationals, they're leading the division. I'm like, okay. So I did. Mets went on the run, Cespedes, Wilmer Flores, everything that happened that led them to the World Series. So I haven't been ingrained in the Mets and baseball nearly as long as most of my, followers do. And, everyone in the chat right now. And I'm so confident in the Mets owner and Steve Cohen. And I'm so damn excited for what the future holds for them, where I really think that you're going to want to be a Mets fan, but this year the narrative just continued with everything that went their way. So
yeah. I think that's the thing though. I think both teams are turning in the right direction. So I think it's a good time to be either like a Mets or a Yankees fan, to be honest. Yeah. Let's pull this up here. Big Brain Borg says, can Wardy come back for more streams, please? Bro, I think we might need to. Like I said, I mean, we're doing the watch party on his stream on Sunday. Like I said, if you guys aren't subscribed to him, the link to his channel is in the description.
We'll have to figure something out.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to figure something out. I like the vibe we're giving off with each other. I think this could be something going forward.
It's really good stuff. And then also we got Jalen. Listen, you don't know Jalen, but he's in the chat. I thought he was originally a troll. He's in love with Tyler Wade. He says like he's the most inspirational player of all time. He watched a video about him on YouTube. He was in tears. He said, Pat, you're going to watch. You need tissues. He says, does Wardy know Tyler Wade? He's so underrated and inspirational. He's a one-of-a-kind player.
You know who Tyler Wade is to me? And every single year, I'm wondering who is this guy with the Yanks, because I've watched him every year. He looks like that AI, like that CPU that you're playing the show, and he doesn't even like have a face. It's like, who is he?
Bro, he looks like a generic road to the show.
That's exactly what Tyler Wade is. If he's been doing good for you guys this year in a very limited role, then congratulations. But he's one of those where I've honestly been wondering, why is he still in the organization? Like, can you tell me why?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tyler Wade provides some sort of value to the Yankees. I mean, in years past, he didn't really. He's always been like our pinch hitter. I mean, pinch runner kind of guy. You'll throw him in there like late in the game to be a pinch runner or like defensive sub or something. Because also he plays all over the field. He plays the outfield, infield. But I think we never really saw like the offensive potential from Wade until this season. And now like he's actually batting like 280 something, but still he's getting like very limited playing time. Because for that reason, the Yankees view him as being more valuable off the bench. They view a guy like Rougned Odor more valuable as being like the third baseman in Gio Urshela's absence, especially because DJ can't play there because he still has like the tricep issue or whatever is going on. But yeah, Tyler Wade, I mean, he's always just kind of been there. He made his debut, I think, in 2017. He's always hit well in the minors, but we never really saw that offensive potential from him until this year. So yeah, he's just one of those weird generic AI players that just is always.
But he has versatility though.
Yeah, I mean, we never saw him play the outfield until this year. But now that we did see him play the outfield, he's a tool. He's a secret weapon. And I think because of that, he's so inspirational. Tyler Wade's one of the most inspirational players in baseball.
All right.
No joke.
You sold me.
But as Timothy just said, should be a fun Subway Series as always. But I think with that being said, that's going to wrap things up for today's pregame. Appreciate you all for stopping by. You guys know the deal. Appreciate Wardy for stopping by. This was an awesome first time we're hopping on stream with him. You guys know the deal. Like I mentioned, be sure to subscribe to him. The link to his channel is the first link in the description. He does Mets content, kind of similar how I do Yankees content. Really fun stuff. I'll be live later after the game for episode 22. I think we're on to the Pat and Dan show. Hopefully after a win. Sorry, Wardy, I had to throw that in there. But everyone be sure, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notification for more. Just to throw this up here, chat, spam those W's, not only for a Yankees win, but for a great series. Also, I'm going to have to wrap up the stream with our little starting intro because I don't have the outro screen on here. But you guys know the deal. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Appreciate you all for stopping by. See you guys after the game. Let's go, Yankees. And Mets, I guess. I don't know. Peace.
See you.